Good morning, good morning, good morning. Where am I looking at today? Over there. Good morning and welcome to this week's episode of Monday Motivation. Let me just pop that down. So Monday Motivation is a motivation that's designed to motivate your Monday, your morning and your week. Thank you for joining me at the later time of 7:30 UK every single Monday, apart from bank holidays. So, welcome, and this week's Monday Motivation is imaginatively titled Just My Imagination. And if I've been really savvy, I don't know if you remember the old song, Just My Imagination. Now, why am I choosing this as a topic for Monday Motivation? Well, there are so many people that are great at doing things, and there are so many people that struggle to get stuff done. And here's the first thing that I want to say. Good morning, Ivona. That is the first thing I want to say. Morning, thank you for watching. And if, like Ivona, you like to dive in, by all means, type a comment below. But if you want to watch quietly in the background, that's okay too. In fact, over 300 of you watched quietly in the background on the replay of last week's Monday Motivation. So for that, if you were one of them, I thank you so much. So here's where this has come from. People sometimes give themselves a hard rap, okay? Number one, it's Monday, and they say, oh, I don't like Mondays or things like that. But a majority of you that listen actually love Mondays, and you go into Monday with a spring in your step. But one of the things that you do to sort of categorise yourself is you'll say, I'm a get things done type of person, or I'm not, which isn't strictly true. Different strokes for different folks, and there are things that you might get done. So, for example, even though you have intended since the 1st of January to get down to the gym, you might not have done that, but you might have been successful in eating plates and plates full of cake, you know. So we are successful at all things at all time. But here's what I've noticed when I've worked with people to look at getting through things, getting stuff done, motivation on a deeper level in the form of personal coaching and mentoring. You know that expression, I'll believe it when I see it. Have you heard that expression before? If you have, and you're listening on the replay, by all means, give me a love heart. 'Cause it's nice to see the pink across the screen, that kind of reddy pink, especially at this time in the morning. Opens up my eyes a bit more. I start off doing the lives like this, and then as I get more pink, my eyes open. How cool is that? Hi Sam, morning to you. I'm waving at you, Sam. So there's an expression that many people use. It's become common to our language. I mean, there's a gazillion terms that we use. We use them, and even though the words are the same in English, they could mean different things for different people. So yeah, I believe it when I see it. It's one that gets bandied around a lot. One of the things that I have noticed about some people in certain situations at some time, i.e. the times that they want to get things done, and they might even surprise themselves by getting things done, is they have this inner way of thinking, and a lot of them aren't even conscious of this. They'll say, oh, I'll believe it when I see it, but internally they make themselves see it so that they believe it, so that they can get it done. Let me give you an example. For many years, I helped people as a speaker coach. So for people that were either nervous about public speaking or wanted to, in some way, up-level themselves in their speaking. Maybe they wanted to be more engaging. Maybe they wanted to sell more through speaking. Maybe they wanted people to really pick up what they were putting down. And one of the things that I noticed, especially for the speakers that were really, really nervous, and this in a way translates over to video, because I have people that speak to thousands, like clients that speak to thousands and thousands of people, but when it comes to video, they feel a bit apprehensive. They can't understand it, and they feel slightly different. One of the things I noticed with my nervous public speakers, they put a lot of focus on what could go wrong. And so their version of I'll believe it when I see it, all they could see, rather than seeing themselves commanding the stage, strutting up, engaging people adoringly listening, looking at them, taking notes, all they could see in their mind was, that they were going to stumble on their words. They're probably going to fall over when they went up on stage. I remember a couple of people, particularly women, said that they had this thing where their neck flushed red. And because their neck flushed red, they felt really conscious of it. The moment I speak, my face goes red. So here's an example of how not to do the thing. And here's how to use your imagination to make it work for you. So if you're a nervous public speaker and you think about the fact that when you next get on stage that you are going to fumble your words, that you're probably going to trip up as you go on stage, that you're going to go red, you're going to look all blotchy and unsightly, people are going to be looking away, or the other converse thing, people are going to be really looking at me and I don't like it, people are going to be distracted by their phones, I'm going to have people heckling. What that person has done as a nervous public speaker is use their imagination to dream about what could happen. And what they've done is they've used that imagination not only to dream about what could happen, but to dream about all the things that could happen that actually won't work for them. They're all things that they don't want. They don't want to go red. They don't want to flush. They don't want to trip up. They don't want to fall over their words. And unwittingly, when we are in a place of doubt or some sort of inner critic, what we'll actually do is we'll switch into this mode, because for this particular problem or issue it's like our default setting. So we're going to so if you're particularly a worrier, I have worked with some people in the last year who were very highly anxious, very successful but very highly anxious, which meant that they replayed these scenarios over and over in their mind. And because they did it so regularly and so often, it became a habit where they could literally just do it without even thinking about it. So imagine that. You go to do the thing that you know that you really, really want to do and you're a bit nervous about it, but you spend hours, turning it around in your mind, turning it around and imagining all the worst possible outcomes. So the first thing is, if there's something that you want to achieve and you can't help yourself but to think about all the worst possible scenarios, the first thing that you actually need to do, rather than looking at changing it, is catching yourself do it. And that is one of the hardest things if you do this on automatic pilot. You don't even realise you're doing it because you're so skilled at making it work for you in a way that you don't want it to work. So I've just had a cold, so in order not to cough my way through this live, I've got a nice hot cup of decaffeinated Earl Grey. I'm going to take a quick sip. Oh, thank you. Sorry, I really gulped then. I don't normally gulp my tea. So if you, so that's the way in which not to do something. So the first thing to do is, if you, as I was speaking, thought, well, speaking's not my thing, I'm quite happy to speak, but there's this, my thing is I can swim, but don't ask me to jump off a high rock into water. It ain't happening. And the reason it's not happening is because I imagine all the things that could go wrong. I imagine how scary it would feel. In fact, I don't just bother to see it. I bring all my senses into it, what it would look like, how it would feel, the sound. And I will continually, and probably since a child, continually play that pattern about how awful it is, So maybe that will be my next challenge to myself to, after I've run my marathon, to get over that. So that's how we are able to stop ourselves from doing things. So the most important thing is to notice what it is for you. And what I would say is, going into this week, rather than tackle something that feels big or huge, for those of you that are in the Visibility Vibes Tribe group, about maybe 20 minutes or so ago, I put a post on a Monday motivation about what is your intent, what is your intention, what is your desire, what is the thing that you'd like most for this week. So I've put that in there. Why don't you use this imagination piece? Because I'm going to play with the opposite side of it now and explain how you make it happen using the imagination, which sounds completely bizarre, but trust me, it works. So if, for example, you said, this week is the week that I get the copy written for my website, or this week is the week that I speak to my manager about my professional development, or this week is the week that I finish a project, whatever the thing is, start to look at where in your imagination you might have pressed the pause button, or where in your imagination you might have thought it over and over and over again in a way that you don't actually want. Okay, so this is really, really important. So think about that first, because if you can identify it, and even for me, you know, helping people with this stuff and doing it for myself, I still get through these little dark nook and crannies where I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that that's what I was thinking about this thing. So you will catch yourself unaware. It's a regular pattern. It happens like clockwork. You don't even think about it until someone like me shows up on a Facebook Live talking about self-motivation, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I never realised that about myself consciously. You know, or it might be, interestingly enough, you know, as I was growing up, so-and-so always said this to me. One of the things that was said to me growing up, which wasn't meant in any harm or malice, was, oh, you better watch what you say. It's amazing that I can actually open my mouth to publicly speak, and I've spoken internationally to live stages at conferences, as well as doing videos, Facebook Lives and things like that. But having that, oh, you better watch what you say, is another fancy way of saying, I'd keep your mouth shut if I were you, you know. And from that, I could have just kept perpetuating that whole I can't speak, and for many years I did, until one year it became an important part of a job that I was doing, of my role, and I couldn't get out of it. It was an integral part of what I did, and trust me, it felt like the most horrid experience to have to break through or move forward. But I did it because my motivation to do the job and do the job properly, I couldn't get out of it, was strong. So through a lot of fear, a lot of blood, sweat and tears, I had to look at, well, how could I make this happen? And with a lot of external help as well, I was then able to string a sentence together without stuttering my words, look at people as I was speaking to them without kind of looking at the floor and wanting just to do this, and without wanting to hide. And the truth of the matter was, the first time I was asked to publicly speak was in front of 150 people. Can you imagine this? There were a group of us sharing this talk. So there was safety in numbers. However, that didn't make me feel safe. That morning, I actually wished that as I was going to breakfast that I could trip up and break my leg. My imagination was playing this video that as I was going to get my scrambled eggs, that I would trip on the stairs, break my leg, be taken to hospital, therefore not have to do the talk. I mean, that sounds ludicrous, doesn't it? But there will be parts of us in anything we do or don't want to do that have that pattern playing. So it's really important to just uncover what that is. And rather than like me coming off this live and saying, right, that's it, I'm going to go and find a tall rock and jump into some water and get over my fear and feel it and do it anyway, why don't I make it work for my week? What is it that I need to do this week? And what can I look at? So I'm just going to pause while I take another sip of tea so I don't cough in your ear. You know, think of what is it that you want to get done this week. Is it that you've got, I see that we've got our radio presenters and coaches and people on as well. Is it that you want to record X amount of episodes for podcasts, and you like podcasting, you're not scared of it, but think about what it could be that might stop you. So what might you be visualising? What might you be bringing into your imagination about that thing that could stop you? Make a note of it, write it down. It's like the minute you bring it into the fresh air, it almost starts to dissipate, you know, it disintegrates, it disappears. So what is it for you? Excuse me, told you I needed a sip of my tea. You really don't want me to be having a coughing fit live. So now we've looked at that side of things. One of the things that I've noticed, and I've had the privilege, sometimes a pinch me privilege, to work with people that are international speakers, are multimillionaires, are really great athletes, successful in what they do, are fantastic musicians, are completely amazing authors, published authors, have gone through and had a dream to do something and been able to live the life of their dream. And very quickly it turns into reality. So what do they do that I notice is different? And this is not a one is better than the other. This is one is more effective than the other. What they do is they use their imagination. So rather than, oh, well, I'll believe it when I see it, Wayne Dyer actually talks about, I'll see it, I'll not I'll see it when I believe it, I'll believe it and see it. Probably said that the wrong way around. It didn't sound right as it came out of my mouth. And what he means there is, if you have then noticed that there's something you want to do and you're playing out the film that it doesn't work, is to put yourself in a situation just for a moment and use your imagination to imagine not only that the thing has happened or been successful and worked, but you've gone like a day, a week, a month after that thing's happened. Maybe if you were the nervous speaker this time, instead of worrying about all the things that could go wrong, you watch as the crowd take lots of notes, have lots of questions, are highly engaged, are speaking to each other, ask to have their picture taken with you. You see moments afterwards how people said, you've so inspired me, you've changed my life. You see how a month later that you're having to turn down further speaking gigs because you're getting so many thrown at you. You are looking at where you turn down doing it for doing its sake, or working with people who aren't aligned with the message that you're sharing. You imagine yourself being able to use that footage maybe to put on your website or to share with other people. You imagine somebody else asking you to speak and you saying, well, I've got footage of this thing, this thing, this thing. What kind of thing are you looking for? You know, you imagine how it feels to be much more self-assured and confident. So here's what I would recommend that you do. If you're looking for some motivation for yourself, for your Monday, your morning, even your week, and for some, even the month, the thing that hasn't happened yet, even though it hasn't happened yet, use your imagination to see it happening in the way that you want it to go. Use your imagination to see it happening, and also like how you're going to feel about it. Are you going to feel quite quietly confident? Are you going to have clarity? You know, I was speaking to a client very recently about a situation that they needed to address. And this was one where they had to basically have a difficult situation. Oh, you're saying you're definitely going to do the exercise this week. Let us know in the Vibes Tribe how it goes. There's a post on Monday. If you want to say what the thing is specifically that you're going to do, you can. And this goes for anyone watching this. If you don't want to say what the thing is specifically, just acknowledge underneath, I'm doing this. And then I'll check in with you on Wednesday, and then we'll celebrate you on Friday. Okay, so for them, and you know, for this particular person, it was a difficult conversation. And one of the things that I find when I'm coaching people through difficult scenarios or what they deem difficult conversations is we often use our imagination to do the same thing. Oh my gosh, I'm going to go and speak to them and I'm going to get an argument. It's going to be stressful. You start thinking about all the stress that you feel in your body and that you're going to get a headache and that you just don't want to be in the room. Why not use this imagination exercise to imagine it going in the way that you want? Now, here's a question. If I was coaching you privately and you were telling me I'm about to go into this situation and I don't like it, here's a variation of a question I would ask you, and it would simply be something like, if you knew you could go in there and you would not fail, you wouldn't make any mistakes, and it would all work perfectly for you, what would be happening? And the reason that I ask that question is I need you to be able to access the thing that you actually do want, because you've already been playing over and over again the thing that you don't want. So by asking yourself that question or something similar, yes, there are lots of other questions. There's many other questions you could ask. And for those of you that are coaches, there'll be you'll have some in your hip pocket that feel more congruent when you're dealing with, say, working with clients. But having the person see what's possible even before it happens, and including for yourself, means that it gives you something that you can work towards, something that you actually want, and it will make your path to getting there smoother. Now, just for those of you who are like your A-types and will bash ahead and forge forward, you might be saying to yourself, right, by the end of this week, I'm going to have my whole website done. And then you'll get to Wednesday and you'll be like, oh my gosh, I've got so much to do, I'm not sure that I'm going to get it done. Here's the other thing that I noticed about people who get stuff done is they don't beat themselves up. They don't waste their emotional energy on things like beating themselves up or guilt. They recognise that they've made progress from where they were. and they continue that progress. Some of them, yes, will put in extra hours to finish off a task and get it done. But the other thing they'll do is they'll recognise the chunk size of what they're doing. If you don't have a website today and you want to get your website done by the end of the week, other ways in which you can get that done is if you can focus on the words, you might be able to hire somebody to help you get that finished so that you've got somebody else that's working on it with you, which gives you a definite way of finishing. And if you're saying, oh no, I'd rather do it myself, it means that your desire to get the website done by the end of the week isn't as strong as you thought. No right or wrong, no good or bad. It just means to check in with what you're putting into your imagination, what it is that you actually want, and almost being truthful to yourself with what you actually want. I hope that makes sense. So I can't wait to hear about what you're going to be motivating yourself to do or to go through this week. Thank you so much for watching live. And as always, if you found just any element of this helpful, please do share it. The best way to share it, I'm told, is just to share it on your timeline, because you never know who of your friends, family or Facebook acquaintances might just need to hear this message for themselves this morning. So thank you so much for sharing this. Thank you so much for joining live. And if you're a member of the Vibes Tribe, by all means, go in there and under the Monday Motivation post, type what it is you're motivated to do, or that you're putting your hand up to be motivated to do something this week. I'll check in with you on Wednesday and I'll check back on Friday where we can have our celebration party. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for sharing, and thank you for being part of this world. Until the next video, bye for now.